Hi, George Durkee again from Columbia College in Sonora, and with the third and what I hope is the final instructional set of videos for my ArcGIS Online class, as well as anyone in the public emergency services community that might want to follow along and do this for their community. So what we're doing is creating a public information map for emergency incidents using ArcGIS Online to push it out to the public. And so far, we've created our web map, which will be internal and editable. And we're using the Briceburg fire that broke out last week in Mariposa, California. And then we did some follow-up work creating a fire perimeter polygon feature class and an evacuation zone feature class. We converted those, saved those as a view layer so you can't edit them. We saved our web map that you can edit and saved it to be a public map. Pulled out the original editable feature classes, and I hope you're following me so far, and pulled in the view non-edit layers, but we kept all the other server-based layers coming in, such as fire perimeter from the NIFC site, FTP site, and so on. So just taking a quick look at the schematic, we're now down here. We've got our public non-editable web map, and we're now going to create the web app. And as I've said before, the web app is just a cleaner and more user-friendly public map, and it gives tools and other things, which I'll show you as we go along here. And we could create a web editable web app from our original web page. I'm not going to do that here, but again, you can make that editable as well, and it's a little cleaner. But if you just have a couple of your GIS crew working on the web map, you might just want to stick with that, though you can do it as an app as well. And I did show you in the last video the option of using a multi-tabbed web app to put more resources and sort of create a one-stop web page for your incident. And we won't cover that, but I showed you the basics in the second video, and there's a template in ArcGIS Online templates where you can do that pretty easily. And you just embed each of the different web pages you want in that web app. Okay, let's get started on the app. Let's always save just to make sure you've got the latest version to use. And to make the app, you go to Share. And I noticed that I didn't share it, so let's share it within the Columbia program. And as I said earlier, if this is going to be a public map, you want to share it with everyone, obviously, and we're not doing that at the moment, just to keep it internal and make sure everything works. But down here, there's create a web app, and so that's what we'll do. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. You can choose from a number of existing templates in the choices here, and go through those and take a look and see different ways to do it. You've got double screens and time sliders and all sorts of fun stuff. And for those of you in the class, one of our last assignments is to build a story map, and so you'd go here on the different templates to do that. But we're going to use the web app builder. And it says public here, but let's add app to that. It's always best to have a couple of reminders of exactly what your file is, even though if you look at the table of contents, which we'll do in a moment here, it'll tell you that it's an app. And we'll get started. Oh, let's just add for public. change map to app. There we go. Get started. So here's your web app builder, and it opens up on your web app, or I'm sorry, your web map, in the state you left it in. And so the theme part allows you to set just the general look of it and how the tools are going to be located, the widgets and colors, and how much side navigation bars and so on. Then you can set the color down here. It's green or blue or just the gray. Well, let's go with red for the moment. Let's go with green. Okay, so that's your theme. Then you move on to your map, and that allows you to choose the map. And since we went directly from our public Briceburg Fire public map and went to create a web app from that, that's the one it filled in that spot. You can change this even after you've built your app, but you want to be careful because if some of your tools are specific to that map, then you might mess things up. But you can change it. You just have to be careful. And you can choose other web maps if you want it. You can edit and change it, or you can even go back and create another map. And then I use your web map's default extent, and that's what shows up here. The zoom level of your app is set based on your map, but you can set it here. But I figure if you're editing in your map and you want to leave it as that, then that'll follow through onto your web app. So set that, and you can also set customizable zoom levels. We won't do that here, but you can do that. And setting a refresh interval. This allows the map to check in for server-based files that are constantly being updated. Usually those are set already. You don't have to do that, but it's not a bad idea to set your own, or if you change something in your web map that's one of your own feature classes, then this will automatically check for any changes. So right now it's set for honor each layer's interval, but you can choose a time for it to check. Now let's go on to the widgets and tools you want to be adding. And so one of the first ones you might want to add, although you can add it later once you've figured out what it is you want to say, is your splash screen. And so this is what shows up when someone clicks on a link and brings up the web app. So you click on the edit part there, and you just get a standard Word Word document type thing, and you can type in this is not authoritative, or you just tell people Briceburg Fire, something like that. Anyway, you want to give people an idea of what they're seeing, and so and it says splash. You can change that. Let's keep it as is, and then OK. And then and notice that the ones that are highlighted already are already on your map. So scale bar is down here, your location, so it allows you to show your actual location on the map based on where the internet thinks you are, or obviously if you have a phone or tablet, it's going from your GPS location, your home location. And a search bar right here. So for instance, when you have this completed, people have the opportunity to type in their address and see if they're inside or outside a evacuation zone. And you can make that clear in both the splash screen and later on in an information screen we can set up. So go through these one by one to get an idea of what tools are available to put in the margins here. And so we'll highlight widget number 1 here, and let's add a measurement tool right here, measurement. So this allows people to measure, let's say, where they are we'll set as miles. They can do area, distance, and location, and then they can figure out how far they are from an incident, or measure the acres of the fire if you haven't already shown that in the label. And notice how that comes into position number 1, and these other ones, you now have 4 widget blanks to be able to fill in. And they won't show on the map. That is, if you haven't created a widget tool for these, then these won't show up. It'll only show your created widget tool. So let's do a second one, and usually on the bar on the left, you want action type tools. So for instance, let's put print in. And you can change things about it. You'd want the output to be PDF as the default. And you can have it put out any size you want as a default, but we'll just stick with map only. And you might want to put in your author here. So for instance, Mariposa GIS or something like that. And then OK. So I think you get the idea there. You know, when you start a widget, start going through these to get an idea of what's available, and you can search ArcGIS Online or go to GeoNet and find out how you can edit or make them customize them more to what you need to do. And the draw widget here is pretty useful. You can draw specific other shapes in if you want to add to the map. So let's leave that for the moment. And now we're going to put in the widget tools up here in the upper right. And so the tendency there is to put in stuff that's informative about the map. So already we have legend and layer list, and you go in and edit each of those. But let's add, for instance, base map gallery, and those are your base map choices. And right now we'll just allow everything in here. You can go through and you can add or subtract. You can do a custom base maps and just add the ones you want. Or if you have access to something else that you can go in and just do those. But we're just moving right along here, so let's just go with it as is. And notice that it adds it over here. Now, you'll have the opportunity later to see how this scales. So on a full screen here, all these show up. But on a phone or a tablet, there'll be a little right arrow here that'll expose the rest of your widgets if they don't show. And well, let's do one more, huh? Add. So let's add 2 more just to give you guys an idea of what's available and what might be useful. About is very useful because that'll allow you to have a longer narrative of how to use the tools, how to use the map, and what you think how useful it might be, how up to date it might be. So we'll add that. And you could change that to, let's say, how to use the map. How to use this map, or obviously to anything else. And then you can, create a list or whatever you want from that. And It's another good place to put a disclaimer at the top, what the map is for, Briceburg Fire, disclaimer for up-to-date information, go to the, say, the sheriff's Facebook page, et cetera, et cetera. And then one more might be bookmark, so that you can have people automatically zoom into areas of interest. So say mandatory evacuation or advisory or whatever. And you can create custom bookmarks here. So we'll just put that in as is, and you guys can fool around. And then you can save the layer visibility. Anyway, a lot of stuff you can do there, but I'll just throw it in just to give you guys an idea what's possible. Okay, so that's a good start, and you can spend endless time tweaking it and getting it ready, but you should become familiar with the basic tools and of what you want. And if you're responsible for a GIS operation, you can and should set this up as a template ready to go. And that way you can literally set something like this up in 30 minutes for an actual incident. If you have your uh, your map and dependent apps set up and your data, so your evacuation zone template is ready to go, and your road closures and so on and so forth are all ready to go. And you can set this up really quickly, and that's really important in an emergency because people are running around and you get sort of this white noise when you think this is real. Whoa, I have to do this. So, so if you have it all put together, that helps quite a bit. So anyway, let's just call that good on your basic tools. Now let's go on to what are called the attributes. And so here's your title. You can change that, and let's call this public information map. And you can add I don't know, anything you want. You can take out the default with Web App Builder. Then you can add links, and those links show up. So for instance, let's set a link for InsuWeb, which is the official uh, agency fire information site. So for that, you just go to the InsuWeb site, and you'll notice here are all the active fires occurring right now. And you could zoom in on the Briceburg fire if that shows. Briceburg, there we go. So you could center it on that, and you could go to the information, go to incident. And so you could add both the specifics of the Briceburg fire, and then you just go into back here and add the URL, click OK, and notice how it adds it here with an active link, so you can have it go there automatically. And under image, you can put in your county logo or the logo of your fire service or whatever you want to do. You can just go to custom and pull up an image you've created, a small one, obviously. It also allows you to add other data sources that might not already be on your map. And one thing you want to keep in mind is subscriber content access. So for server-based layers like I think it's the national or the internet, the World Traffic Service, that's a subscriber content. And so what that means is you actually have to give permission for your organizational account to draw credits to use it. And a lot of times you'll find that you've set everything up and you've gone to your private browser and entered the URL of the public web app, and it asks you to log in. Well, that means there's something on there that either isn't shared to the public, or um, even more likely is you've got subscriber content in there, and you go in here and it'll tell you if there's subscriber content. It'll give you what it is, and then you just hit OK and give it permission. So let's save once again. And now let's look at a preview here. This is what the app is going to look like, and you can go through various sizes here to see how it looks with various types of phone or tablet or something like that. And it gives you a QR code, so if you want to put that on an informational flyer or on another website for people to access it quickly, you can do that. And it tells you if it's been saved or not. Anyway, you can go back to configure. Oh, and I did forget, and I often do, I forgot to put in one widget that's pretty important. Let's put in share, so you can get a short URL for sharing this. And you can share it across all sorts of platforms. But then, of course, you got to sign in for your platform. But we'll just leave those checked and go OK. So there's what we've got so far, and it's a good basic set of widgets to have. So you've got your legend and your layer list, base maps, your informational pop-up with instructions or whatever kind of text you want to add, your bookmarks for particular zoom levels, and your share widget. And then over here you have measuring tool and to print. And in addition, when you open this up, you'll also get a pop-up, and I'll show that in just a sec here. So let's go back to our widgets, and I think one thing I forgot to point out is in the upper right here is whether something is visible. So if you click on the high splash screen, you want to make that visible so it pops up every time, and then they get a bunch of information or a disclaimer or whatever you want, and they can click that so it doesn't show up every single time, and then you click OK. Okay, so we'll save, and now let's launch the app and just get a general idea of what it looks like. So there's the splash screen when it comes up, and we'll just click that and OK. And here are your tools here and here, and the ones that are set by default here. Another one you can add is coordinate conversion. So this is useful if, especially if you set this up as editable for your internal group. You might need to convert coordinates back and forth. So you know, air ops will use degrees, decimal minutes, whereas other people might be using degrees, minutes, seconds, or decimal degrees, or something like that. And that way you can quickly convert back and forth. So anyway, I think we've got pretty much everything we want here, or at least you guys can see how to put this together. And here's the share widget here, and it'll bring up a short URL. And you can also embed this into a web page if you want. So let's take a look at the web map, the internal one, and make sure everything goes through. We'll edit that and see if it's reflected in the app, and it should be, but let's find out. So here's your internal web map, and so let's go to edit. You can just click on it and go to edit here, and click on it again. There we go. Let's stretch this way out, put that way out there. and save. And now go back to our web app and refresh and hope that it's all working right. And there you go. So it's reflected obviously in your app, so everything's working. And one thing I didn't do, as I mentioned earlier, is I didn't label these. So let's just go in quickly and do that. And for labeling of a view layer, you have to do that separately. It's already done in our internal editable web app, but you also have to do that in the public one as well. It doesn't carry over. So for evacuation zones, you go to create labels, and it's set on creator, so you want it set on evacuation zone. Add a halo, make it a little bigger. There you go, good enough for now. Maybe put the visible range down to county, single county, and then OK. We can do the same thing for the fire, but let's just finish this up. Then save. And once again, see if that comes through with a refresh.